another edition of Motorman and Root Dog. This is Rudy Reyes, joined by Scott Morganroth, talking sports. That's right, we do that. We do that kind of thing because that's just who we are. That is what we do. Go throw us a follow at Take No Punches. Sorry about the abrupt music, but you might like that. And maybe I'd play it again. I don't know. Speaking of playing it again, you may have heard about it. You may have not, unless you're following the sport. March 26th is opening day around Major League Baseball. We're going to see a lot of teams and a lot of available seats, obviously, available with some opening day games that everybody should really look out for. Of course, opening day would not be suited without talking about, well, the coronavirus is behind that. We're not going to go into that. However, I will say this, that it's going to affect people's mindsets when they attend these games, and that includes the NFL Draft, which is up and coming. Talking about Major League Baseball, Scott Morganroth here on Take No Punches. Scott, I got a question for you. The 2020 regular season schedule's been posted. Do you think this coronavirus situation could affect the outcome of attendance throughout sporting events, as now we're going to start getting into the NFL Draft season next month, as well as the opener of Major League Baseball just right around the corner?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Rudy, they're definitely publicizing it as though it could be a bit of a problem. I've got a situation actually in my neck of the woods dealing with Super Sebring, the 68th annual, from March 18th to the 21st, 2020, and there's going to be probably 300,000 people, 400 for that weekend. You know, so anytime you deal with a situation with a lot of large numbers, you just never know whether or not that virus could be where it's at. Because my wife, Candy Ebeling, told me the other day that JFK Hospital near Boynton Beach, Florida, had a couple of cases. So you don't know where this is going to pop up anywhere. Of course, you have 40, 50,000, depending on the venue. So it's entirely possible, Rudy. Glad to be back on our program.
Yeah, this is definitely a regularly scheduled program. Just throw us a follow at Take No Punches, would you? You know, like it, love it, leave it, share it, because we like that kind of thing. This is Rudy Reyes with Scott Morganroth. You know, Scott, I look at this outbreak of coronavirus, and to be honest with you, I think it will affect the outcome of attendances throughout Major League Baseball. We may see even a decline depending on people's mindsets, how they approach this. What will be their approach to this? They're going to walk in wearing masks. I mean, I just see this as being an issue where Major League Baseball is going to have to do something from a PR standpoint in order to help people be calm and to stay convinced that this is a contained situation and to follow safety precautions and things of that nature. And a lot of the opening day notation from who's actually starting, we're going to start with the Orioles. They're opening March 26th, so just in over 2 weeks away. The Cubs will make their third trip to Camden for a 2-game series against the Red Sox. To be honest with you, I don't know if the Red Sox are ready. In Williamsport, obviously this is where Little League World Series is held year after year after year. When I look at this game between the Orioles, how's that going to look? Because we know the Cubs are actually really good during this time of year, obviously within the opening week within Major League Baseball.
Well, I mean, right now, if you would have told me a year ago, I think they wouldn't have fared very well. But when you consider how many players that the Red Sox have let get away, you know, they moved on from David Price and Mookie Betts. The question is how further along are the Orioles in their rebuilding process? And then you have to wonder about the Red Sox in the regression process. So I think the gap could be a little bit narrowed for sure.
Well, yeah, because Mookie Betts, and everybody, you have Mookie Betts, and of course another famous Red Sox who headed over to Los Angeles just recently, which is going to be a little bit different. I can't even imagine if you would have said this 2 weeks ago and said, well, Mookie Betts is going to be part of the Dodgers hands down. I would have probably laughed, because when you think of Mookie Betts, you don't think of the Dodgers, you think of the Red Sox, or you think of some other team other than going from the East Coast to the West Coast. How is Mookie Betts going to do you believe, throughout this regular season? Is he going to show up all of a sudden? Is it a new environment where he feels revitalized in a different system? I mean, how do you think Mookie's going to fare in all of this?
Well, Boston's a tough place to play. Anybody will tell you that, Rudy. You're under such a microscope with those fans that, you know, anything that if a pin drops, they're going to know about it. You know, whereas LA's, you know, you're from the Southern California area, right? So you know full well that things could be somewhat lax. That doesn't mean that with the amount of money that he's being paid, there won't be any less pressure, because you got to remember, he's going from the American League to the National League. So as a result, when you go ahead and change leagues, the question is what kind of adjustment you can make based on, years ago you have one place where you throw more off-speed pitches versus challenging the hitter. So, some guys adapt to it quicker than others. So I think he'll be okay with a change of scenery in L.A. I really do. Now, is he going to hit for power numbers in L.A. versus that bandbox called Fenway Park? That's anybody's guess. Does David Price pitch better in the National League than he does the American League, because he's pitched in the American League throughout his entire career? Those are some things that are certainly interesting to find out as time progresses.
Well, Mookie Betts is a guy who did it relatively well his numbers have been kind of in decline, and we've seen that last year. He hit 180 balls. He only had 129 hits in 2018. He did a little bit better in those stats in 2019, but he averaged less at .295, whereas in 2018 it was .346. You can run the law of averages there, but at the end of the day, Mookie Betts is really going to have to step it up. He was a fifth-round, 172nd pick, and born in Nashville. Of course, he's probably back in Nashville right now taking care of family that was affected by by these tornadoes that happened to land in a very unfamiliar type of situation. And of course, you have the Tennessee Titans doing their job there to help with those efforts as well. When you look at Mookie Betts and the fact alone that Betts' career stats kind of speak for themselves. On-base percentage is solid at almost 3.8. Again, his average is .301. But overall, I think he still has something left in the tank, and I think he'll be able to show that in a new environment, new system, new coast. Is West Coast the best coast? Some people say that. East Coast the best coast. I think best coast and West Coast kind of rhyme better than East Coast. But nevertheless, Mookie Betts definitely started out as one of those top prospects being drafted in 2011. Now, make no mistake, he's been in the league for just a little under 11 years. But I think that when you look at Betts and you look at the situation that he's in, and of course the next game play tomorrow will be against the Colorado Rockies, who seem to be kind of struggling themselves. And a lot of teams are struggling right now. Pirates are struggling. They've only won 2 out of their last 6 in spring training. Yes, it's spring training. Okay, fine. Somebody throw the bucket of water on me in this. But I think that a lot of teams are really struggling right now, to be quite honest with you. Teams like the Pirates, teams that continue to find ways to lose in spring training. And I've kind of said this off the cuff a couple of times in regards to where the Pirates are and what they have and have not done. And pitching's never been the strongest suit. They did have some very solid components from a pitching standpoint, but year after year, they just seem to find a way to really be behind the 8 ball or even the baseball for that matter, considering that's what we're talking about in regards to on-base percentages, how many strikeouts. Chris Archer, they actually re-signed to additional extension, which doesn't bode very well for me, at least in my opinion. He didn't show enough last year to warrant any type of new monies paid. I just don't know that he's the ace that the Pirates need in that regard in order to make it a run. So as far as moving on to the next exact...
Well, can I ask you a quick question first before we go on, okay? And that's this. Do you think that Mookie Betts' unsettling situation between the contract and the trade rumors may have affected his performance last year with the Red Sox, where he goes into this year not having to worry about those off-the-field business distractions? Because I kind of wonder if that plays into the mentality. Not that he's not being paid well enough, but, anytime you have uncertainty, Rudy, you kind of, everybody handles it in a certain way. I'm just curious what your thoughts about that are.
I think that whenever you're talking about contract and you think about how that could have any type of effect, the minute you put that in the same conversation is a minute that you can say that, yeah, it still plays within a certain level of distraction within a player's mindset. And for them, yeah, it's fine to be focused on wins if you're a player in Major League Baseball. But I think more importantly, when you think that you're due more than what you're being paid for, and negotiations are ongoing, and you're continually trying to outprice yourself, I think that was probably one of the main factors in regards, other than the whole production aspect of why Betts was on the chopping block. and sent to Los Angeles. However, when you look at guys, I'll give you, we just use Chris Archer as an example. Last year, he posted a 5.19 ERA. That is not good. That is not good. I don't care what team you're on. I don't care how horrible they are. That is not good. You're paying this guy top money, and then it's almost as if this is a belief system with certain players in Major League Baseball. Why do I say that?
Right.
I say it very clearly, openly, and honestly. These guys are getting paid with no cap. There's no cap in baseball. There's no cap. So these guys are being paid an exorbitant amount of money to not perform. And I've said this about NFL players. Jay Cutler comes to mind. All types of other people who have not shown consistently that they can get it done from a production standpoint. Chris Archer reminds me of that guy. Now, not to suggest that he's too old, not to suggest that he couldn't get any better, but to be quite honest with you, 5.19 ERA, when you average it out, 3.86 is still not good on an annual basis. So when it comes to teams getting the right people, and I've said this before quite a few times, this is Rudy Reyes with Scott Morgan at Take No Punches. Throw us a follow. We like it. Don't love it. Leave it. Share it, because that's what we like. Chris Archer is one of those guys that reminds me of someone who wants to perform well, thinks that he's performing maybe not as good as the money indicates, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, he played in 23 games last year. He started in all 23 games. He pitched 119 roughly innings. He had 143 strikeouts. But, again, that ERA is what really overshadows everything. And not to further damn him by any stretch of the imagination, but he's 3-9. He was 3-9 last year as a starter. You can't have those kind of numbers and expect to be on this team. And again, it goes back to teams like the Pirates, and of course that is my favorite Major League Baseball team. But at the same token, it's year after year of complete and utter misery. Why?
Right.
Because Huntington fails to do what he has to do and pick up the guys he needs, and other teams fall within that exact paradigm as well. I've had Michael McHenry on my show called, well, his nickname is the Ford. I'm looking forward to having him back on again. But he was a former player for the Rockies. He was a player for the Pirates, and of course he got his name the Ford for obvious reasons, because you couldn't get through to home plate without him being in your face. 90% of the time you just didn't land there with an elbow or a finger or anything else.
Right.
But overall, I've spoken about this with him at length. One of the main things that stuck out to me based upon what he says, and this is applicable, Scott, across the board, and you can agree with me or you cannot agree with me, but when you look at players who deserve to be wearing that top-of-the-line Major League Baseball uniform, have all those types of environmental things that help positively spin their mentality into becoming athletes that the teams, those respective teams that have these guys on there, you're expecting them to perform and perform well. The problem is, and again, you can agree or disagree, that there are a ton of players in Major League Baseball now, not at the AAA, not at the AA level, but at the Major League Baseball, at this highest, most professional level possible, that underperform and get overpaid year after year.
Oh, yeah. All right, let me preface a couple things. Talk about Chris Archer, all right? 5.19 ERA in the National League, item number one. Item number two, the Tampa Bay Rays had to know what they were doing when they moved on from him and sent him to Pittsburgh. And how did the Rays do last year, Rudy? They got in the playoffs, didn't they?
Yep.
So, here's an organization that has probably less money than any of them, but somehow, some way, they find a way to compete, and they find a way to contend. So how do you justify it? A higher earned run average of over 5 in the National League, Rudy. Want me to say it again? Okay, versus, you have that pitcher hitting / no DH. So, yeah, and then to preface your point, that Major League Baseball, why do you think the NFL doesn't like to have guaranteed contracts? Because they feel that everything should be done on a year-to-year basis, and you just laid it out for me nicely. Thank you, okay, that a lot of guys in the major leagues do underperform, and as a result, you're scrambling more, and you can't afford to get away with this over a 162-game season, because it's not like in the Major League Baseball, you get in the playoffs with a 9-7 record, Rudy. If you get to the playoffs in MLB, you earn it, okay? There's no shortcutting the process. You have a lot of games, and you'll find out who's good and who isn't. How many upsets have you really seen in Major League Baseball over the course of that sustained period of time? that, I don't care about what happens when you get in playoffs. When you get in playoffs, anybody's game. But you can't fake it in MLB over a marathon like that, Rudy.
No, you definitely can't. And you can't even be considered to be part of the contention, regardless of what league you're in, regardless of what position you're in. If you're not playing to win, then you may as well not play at all. If you're a Major League Baseball franchise and your designation is to go grab the guys that you've scouted, you've done your homework, you've done your research, you've had conversations over and over and over and over again with the same kind of guys, something can be said for guys like Chris Archer who continue to be overpaid and underperform, and maybe Major League Baseball should have a cap. They should have a cap. I think they should. Why? Because they're wasting money. They're wasting money on guys who continue to not perform year after year after year. I understand that there's a farm system. If there's a problem and they're not performing at this highest level possible, you ship them back down. Just ship them back down. It doesn't matter what they feel or how they feel. You're not performing, you got to go back to the minors. End of story.
Right.
How many opportunities are you going to give guys like Chris Archer, right? How many opportunities? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but good luck thinking you're going to get a cap in Major League Baseball when they fight over the luxury tax to begin with. I'm not disagreeing with you. Good luck. You're talking about, Rudy, the strongest union in pro sports. The MLB union is stronger than any of them, isn't it? So how do you think you're going to get one? Does that mean I don't agree with you? No, heck no, I totally agree with you. Now, do you think you send them down to the minor leagues? Yeah, but you're still going to pay them a boatload of money, guaranteed.
You're not going to pay them that much. You're not going to pay them that much. There's no way. You're not going to pay a Major League Baseball player a contract if they go back down to farm. Let's say you sign them for 3 years, and all of a sudden you send them back down to farm. What are you going to do? Take that money away? You're stuck.
Right.
You're stuck. Exactly. That's why there needs to be a cap. If there's a cap, you're capping that person whether they go to AAA or they stay in the majors. Which one is it? Now, originally, Chris Archer was drafted by the Indians. We know how horrible the Indians have been, in not in recent memory, but past, I don't know, give it an age of like 13 to 14 years. Haven't been very good. Only with their recent memory have they begun. Why? Because they recognize that players like Chris Archer and many others find their way out of playing in the major leagues, and that's why he was traded off. Right? Tampa Bay. The list goes on and on. He didn't see any time at all whatsoever on the mound when he was with Cleveland. However, I think more importantly, I think it needs to be looked at, and I think a cap needs to be placed. Whether or not that is logistical or not through other people's eyes in Major League Baseball, whether it was Bud Selig or maybe in the NBA and Adam Silver, maybe in the NFL with Roger Goodell. Everybody recognizes that these heads of their respective sporting entities and groups recognize that perhaps maybe you need to put a cap on all this because they're just throwing money down the toilet with guys like Archer, who continue to underperform year after year. I mean, heck, his profile photo kind of says it all. It doesn't look very happy to me, but looks can be deceiving. I want to kind of move on here only for the simple fact that there's so much baseball to really talk about. It would take a 3-hour show to go over all of it. But we're going to stay on the topic of larger gatherings, of things that are going on, events that are going to transpire. And one of those events up and coming is going to be in Las Vegas. If you don't know what that is, and you're not paying any attention to major sporting organizations like the NFL, who plans on continuing to have the NFL draft. Why? For obvious reasons. It's a moneymaker. People get drafted. They're going to have a red carpet at the Fountains of Bellagio in Las Vegas. It's going to be a pretty decent event. I was at the 2018 NFL draft. Couldn't get to Tennessee, but it's always a grand event. It's always a grand time. It's always fun. It's always great to look at these up-and-coming guys getting drafted first overall. Of course, they can be busts, and they can not be busts. But I think, moreover, that there was a first case found in southern Nevada of this coronavirus, and could affect things like the NFL draft. And we were talking about it from the onset of the show. This is Rudy Reyes, Scott Morganroth on Motorman and Rude Dog. Throw us a follow. I take no punches. Like it, love it, never leave it, but share it. Scott, there's a lot of concern going on with this virus, and I think overall, sometimes predominantly from what I understand, just based on numbers, that the NFL at any given time will see something to the effect of 600,000 people or more because this is
Right.
held on the floor of the Bellagio in the front of an outdoor event. Now, the NFL draft has never done an outdoor event, at least not to my recollection. And the fact
Right.
alone that this is the very first and foremost in front of the Bellagio and on the Strip, I might add, on the 23rd of April through the 25th, certainly begs the question of whether or not crowds will take to the NFL draft and not have any concerns over the large crowds and not to gather this, hyperbola paranoia and things of that nature. How concerned should fans be in regards to these types of close proximity breathing situations with other media members breathing down other media members' necks on interviews?
Well, I think they should be concerned. Now, whether they aren't going to be concerned is another story. Whether they'll take it for granted, they won't get it. But yeah, anytime you said it yourself, Rude Dog, large crowds, right? So, what's like going on an airplane? When do most people get sick? When they're flying on an airplane, and all of a sudden they come up with germs. So, when you're dealing with germs and the probability of anything can happen, there's no question that the risk is so much higher with those particular numbers. Now, again, you're right. It is the first time where it's an outdoor event. So my question to you, are you more concerned with an outdoor event or an indoor event when everybody's confined?
Well, there's actually two ways that you can look at this. One of those ways is that for the most part, an outdoor event is just an outdoor event. So what happens with all that hot breath? It gets put in the air, right?
Right.
So if, let's just say one person has it and they don't know that they have it, that hot air is going to go in the air. Whereas in a enclosed building like in Arlington, but an outdoor event is probably the best thing they can have. An enclosed environment means that all that's going to travel and it's going to circulate throughout the air system. Right. And of course, buildings like Arlington and everybody else may not be ready to have any type of something of this magnitude to be considered to watch out for. So, we need to change these to HEPA filters. I mean, you can't imagine how many filters there are inside of Arlington as an example. And furthermore, I don't know what people's mindsets are in regards to panic mode. Is someone who's coughing, and is that not enough of an indication if someone shows up there with a cold that you're not going to want to get away from them? I think a little bit more is being made out of this, to be quite honest with you, from an outside standpoint. However, to be realistic, 233 confirmed cases and counting of COVID-19. And of course, there was one found here. I'm not trying to get political. I'm not trying to go news here, but it could ultimately affect outdoor engagements, indoor engagements, and other states, other counties, other countries are limiting the amount of people that can actually attend such an event. Do you think the NFL may put a cap on this? Or if they can, or can they at all?
Well, I think a lot of it has to be that we have to remember that the media is obviously going to dictate part of this too. Because anytime we get it in the media, what's our job to do? We deal with it in Florida, Rudy, with hurricanes. There's panic all the time in our neck of the woods. Not that I want to sell you and Janet, come to Florida. It's all paradise and all that. Yes, those things called hurricanes. But when you talk about media hype, and I think sometimes when you gauge the media hype, then I think it becomes a reactionary type of thing where you adjust accordingly. So what I'm saying is you look for trends. If you don't think the trends are as bad, then you don't worry. But right now, what is the NFL draft? I think like 5-6 weeks away. So you're going to have a lot of things going on between now and then. But you do – don't get me wrong, Rudy. You do have to plan, okay? But there's a lot of things like opening day occurs before the NFL draft. What you hear about it with the media hype, not only regular media, but what about social media? Social media, don't think that we both know that people aren't paying attention to it because they are. So I think there's a lot of outside factors that really will factor into how it's all played out.
It all remains to be seen. Should the NFL stop the NFL draft in Vegas? Nah, not quite yet. I wouldn't put the brakes on it as of yet. However, I'd really watch this situation closely. I'm sure the NFL is. There is no doubt about that in my mind. But I definitely want to shift another gear, moving over to what's on tap in regards to other sports, and of course the NBA being one of them. Steph Curry came back last night for the first time. Obviously, it's been in a long time as the Golden State Warriors found themselves in a situation without Stephen Curry in very formidable fashion. I must say, last night he just put on a serious performance. I seen him with his dual-colored shoes and neon green, I think neon green and pink. But last night, he absolutely just laid it on the line. I mean, he put it all out there on display. Klay Thompson still scheduled to come back, but I think more importantly, these totals for not very good when you look at the amount of time that he spent, 34, almost 35 minutes on the floor. He was almost 48%, which is kind of an average for him, regardless of whether he's played 50 games or 70 games or even 80 games for that matter.
Right.
The amount of time that Steph Curry's been able to really drop dimes, he came back in a full-blown vengeance at almost 41% field goal percentage, which speaks to his credit. And the amount of free throws, he was perfect from the line last night. A lot of the great things I've seen from Steph Curry, and the type of energy that he brought with him, because everybody balled out. Losing effort, perhaps, but he still balled out and really did everything right to get these guys into gear, to get this team back on page and play with such pizzazz as you watched last night against the Toronto Raptors. A lot of things about the Toronto Raptors I didn't like. Defensively, they allowed players to enter the paint with guys like Ibaka, who's such a dominant force. It was kind of a shame to see driving to the paint. Of course, that would have been Golden State's plan, but they really did everything that they could in order to really stay competitive, especially at the latter part of the game in the fourth quarter, knowing that they were down over 10 points. Certainly stands to reason. And of course, without guys like Klay Thompson and the other splash, well, I guess you only have half a splash when you have Steph Curry on the floors. But half a splash better than no splash. I'll say that much. But overall, not very good for Golden State. From a seasonal standpoint, there are 14 wins, 49 losses. 49! I don't remember the last time, outside of having Klay, outside of having the bench depth that Golden State has had throughout the last 5-7 years with Steve Kerr at the helm. They're only .22 in winning percentage, and they're over 35. I mean, look, the bottom line is that they're at the bottom of the list overall when it comes to percentages, win-loss. They've won a game at least last night against Toronto. Where do you see Golden State moving from here? What do they do with Klay Thompson? How do they, of course, not really my neck of the woods. I'm from Southern California. Golden State's up towards San Francisco in the Bay Area. But when you look at Golden State, what do you see them doing in the offseason? I mean, what are they going to do in order to get back to that championship caliber bench depth and mentality in the following season?
Well, I see Klay Thompson definitely coming back. This team has been decimated by injuries, and they're a fraction of what they were. And then what did they make that one addition? What was it, Wiggins that they added? So
yeah, Andrew Wiggins was on fire last night. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so you have Andrew Wiggins, and of course you're going to have a good draft choice. You would think they're have a pretty good draft choice. So it's a tough year for them. Kevin Durant left, and of course Andre Iguodala. I think few people realize the leadership qualities that he possessed. So yeah, yes, indeed, there were some subtractions that went. You're snake bitten by injury, so how long will it take for them to compete? I don't know. If Curry's playing a full season, does he go out there and factor in their 30, 35 wins versus where they are now? It's anybody's guess. But, you open up a brand new building and you're this bad. What is it called? The Chase Center, I think it is, or whatever the Chase Arena is out there. So I think they'll be okay. I think Steve Kerr is definitely the right coach for them. And, sometimes you have to take a step back. But he's got that honeymoon period where he's won a lot, so I don't think ownership will really panic that much. I think the Warriors will be fine in the next year or two. They just need a couple more core players, and they need to stay healthy. I don't think it's as bad in Golden State as most people think.
The record kind of indicates what they're doing. Are they tanking? Absolutely not. Steve Kerr doesn't believe in that stuff, and I've heard many interviews with Steve Kerr. And the most important thing about Kerr and about his mentality is that he's really able to pull these guys together, get the right components. Klay Thompson will definitely be back. Of course, the commercial keeps floating around where you see the surgical incision on his left knee that is so obvious. And the competitor in him doesn't allow for that to overtake his path of being, a two-time NBA champion. Of course, the other part of the splash with Steph Curry on the floor. Klay Thompson is a willful participant in the cheerleading section for Golden State right now, as well as he should be, because he's not even close. He's still part of the rehab situation trying to get ready for the following season. If Golden State continues to lose, and I'm just going to put this out there, if they continue to lose, they're going to have a really good draft positioning headed into the following year's NBA draft. So I would really pay attention to that and look at that a little bit closely. On the other end of the spectrum, you look at the LA Lakers, who are taking on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Interestingly enough, if they win this game, and I'm not going to say they will, but if they win this game, of course, I'm from Southern California. This is my neck of the woods. This is where I see the rubber meeting the road. And when I say that, I mean the Lakers are 47-13. They're almost at playing at 800. They've won 2 in a row. And if they win tonight against Milwaukee, which is going on ESPN, not that I'm plugging them in, but this could put them in the first position in the West overall. And, of course, we know that time is ticking to where we get to the latter part of the season where all these games matter. Every single win matters. They won against the Pelicans 122-114. The night after that, 120-107. They basically put a wax on Joel Embiid.
Go ahead, pronounce it all day long anyway.
Embiid rhymes with indeed, but they didn't get it done. So indeed to the Lakers for getting it done. And to be honest with you, there's so many great things to like about this Lakers team right now. I'm not going to go on a big Lakers tire, but I look at it like this. The Lakers have pretty good odds right now to end up in the NBA Finals. Now, I know that out there in Florida, when you look at teams that are in that general area, and none really come to mind, at least not that I know of, and the Marlins don't even come close to a winning franchise by any stretch of the imagination. However, the Lakers being number one in the West with guys like Anthony Davis who continue to put on display night after night, yeah, there are some misses. And I think more importantly, when you look at LeBron James with almost 11 assists per game, speaks to his credit, other than that mind botch and boggle when I just shook my head and said, wait a minute, he's double dribbled into court. And that ball went right back to the Pelicans. Of course, Pelicans in a very losing effort in that game. Do you think that the Lakers could be the number one seed headed into any playoff scenario?
Well, I got to tell you this. You're a Lakers guy, and I'm an adopted Milwaukee guy because that's where I have family. So it's very possible that I could end up finding myself in a situation that I'm actually pulling for the Bucks. So the Bucks and the Lakers. And when you look at the logistics of both of them, once upon a time in the 70s, these teams, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor, played for both those organizations. So I think the key for the Bucks is they got to get around the Miami Heat and be able to get to the finals, first and foremost. Who knows what's going to happen in the West? I don't know how deep it is. I like the Lakers easily getting through the West. I don't see a whole lot of teams challenging. But the Bucks have to finish the deal. And you know what? Don't sleep on the Toronto Raptors either. Don't do it. The Bucks have more competition and hurdles in the East than I think the Lakers do in the West. And now what happens when the Bucks and the Lakers go ahead and play one another? It's anybody's guess. And with the NBA playoffs being longer than the baseball season, who knows what will ever happen anyways.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would really like to see the Lakers take the West and to be able to get fourth and forward into a place where most people didn't even think at all whatsoever that they would be there where they're at right now. And I like the doubt aspect. I like the doubt factor. But the minute they're talking about bringing AD in a free agency to Los Angeles, that was just an absolute perfect fit. I mean, absolute perfect fit. And it's shown that. Why? Because LeBron James and AD had already had conversations prior to AD's arrival. If anybody don't know who AD is, you're missing the boat. Anthony Davis. Of course, this is Rudy Reyes, not Anthony Davis. Talking with Scott Morgan, we're on to Take No Punches. Go give us a follow. We're just on for a few more minutes, but I just wanted to touch on this for a minute, that LeBron James felt as though when he believed that AD was coming to the Lakers, he bumped up conversation. He bumped up the sellability, right? Because, of course, we know Kobe Bryant passed, and my heart goes out to the Lakers organization, his wife, his kids, and of course, everybody else that was on board on that fateful day on that helicopter, and I have a show to that effect. Everybody can go check out on the RudeDogShow.com. But it would have been Kobe Bryant to have a conversation with Anthony Davis if it wasn't LeBron. So either way you go, regardless, I think the AD was eventually going to come over to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Right. Well, it's true. I mean, again, Davis wanted it there. Now I guess the only thing is, all you guys say about him is he'll probably re-sign with them. That's what he wanted badly, and James definitely has a superstar. But again, you're talking about a team that's playing at a high level. James has done a pretty good job trying to say, hey, we're trying to honor Kobe, but maintain the focus of what they're trying to do. And that's win a championship, which that organization has done an awful lot of doing. So, I guess I don't follow the league as much as I used to because of the drama, but let's not kid ourselves. It is one of the 4 major sports, and again, you're talking about NBA TV ratings dropping. They're trying to do different things to spark interest. But I think if you really want to see a high ratings finals, okay, I believe that a Lakers-Bucks series would definitely blow the TV ratings out of the water for a lot of the old-timers that are having a chance to see these two teams renew acquaintances many years ago. I think that would be very beneficial to the league. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and yes, I'm finally getting that one right for a change against LeBron James and some of the supporting cast. And you have a potential making Rudy for a 7-game series. You really do, providing Milwaukee gets there. Because everybody thought they would steamroll over Toronto. And what happened? The Raptors said, no, Canada instead of, Canada. Okay, no, Canada's going to get to the finals against the Warriors, and not the anticipated matchup that a lot of people thought was going to occur in the first place.
No, and that brings up a really good point, is that Milwaukee is one of those teams that was just, they're right there, they're right there, they're right there, and all of a sudden they fall off. What happened?
Right.
Nobody knows. That was last year. This is this year. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo. The problem that I have is when you're talking about Rookie of the Year, when you talk about NBA MVP of the year, I'm still going with LeBron James. And there's a couple reasons I'm going to outline, and then we're going to cut this off. But
sure,
the LeBron James has been a force on the court. He may not do it in the fashion that he used to, but he's already won championships. Giannis hasn't been there yet. Yeah, he's been in the playoffs. He hasn't won a championship yet. LeBron James does so much off of the court. I'm not going to state that Giannis doesn't, but I know this. LeBron James is making a difference in everybody's lives. Yeah, okay, so fine. He speaks at a turn, but who doesn't? Who doesn't? Who has not found themselves in a situation where they speak at a turn and now they have to back up and say, oh, my bad. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. LeBron James did that, but at the same token, that's not take away from the fact that he has been the complete cylinder and cog of this Lakers team, just like Giannis has, and what he means to Milwaukee, what he's done for the Bucks and that organization up to this point. But I think that when you look at the Lakers as a whole, they have all the pieces. They really do. Milwaukee has Giannis, and they have a couple others, but I mean, this is a very deep bench for the LA Lakers, having Caruso, having guys to step in off the bench to make that impact, whether it's defense, offense, or both, for that matter. I think that LeBron has an overall better game on both ends of the court and has shown it consistently year in and year out. I'm going with LeBron as my NBA MVP. Regardless of what happens to the rest of the season, just like we thought that maybe Patrick Mahomes was going to win the MVP for the NFL, it wasn't so. It was Lamar Jackson who ended up being that. So because of what he brings, right? So again, we're talking about individuality in a professional sporting organization that allows for you to be that key cog. And Lamar Jackson, deservedly so, NFL MVP. Had a pleasure interviewing him in 2018. And furthermore, LeBron James should be the eventual MVP for the NBA when it's all said and done, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, let me give you my take on that, and I'll tell you why. I'm actually going to agree with you on this one. Even though I think Giannis will eventually get an MVP, you got to remember, LeBron James is older right now, and he's possessed. Anytime you have older and you're possessed and you're trying to win a title now in 3 cities, okay, one in Miami, 2 in Miami, and he pulled it off in Cleveland, which probably gets him a statue out there when things cool down. But to win it in L.A., anytime a player can win it in not 1, not 2, but 3 towns, that does say a lot. So, yeah, the Lakers have definitely been faced with a lot of adversity, but I would give LeBron the edge this time. I really do. He's been a stabling force there, but he's a heck of a player. He is, and that would be his 4th championship. He's got 3. But, again, if I give it to him, Rudy, it's only because of this. The man is older, and he's playing at a high level. That would be my justification for giving James the MVP.
Fair enough. There it is. Scott Morganroth, Rudy Reyes. Scott, any last final words for today?
The final words is for all you folks out there, please follow us at Tribune South, the South Florida Tribune. You can see a lot of our content on www.southfloridatribune.com. We've actually added the Florida Gators as one of our media distribution partners, the biggest school in the state of Florida. And we have a lot of great columnists as well as our broadcast division, where we have 7 shows, this one included, Motorman and Rude Dog. And we love doing this. It's a lot of fun bringing you the best entertainment energy out there. And, I'm happy to be partnered up with Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. We had a great run in Miami, getting some things accomplished for the Rude Dog Show. And we just enjoy doing this. I couldn't think of a better partner to be lined up with than you, Rudy Reyes. But, yeah, go to www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my personal page is at Scoop, SCOOP, with 5 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 3s. And like the South Florida Tribune on Facebook as well. So that should give you a lot of updates to follow. So that's what I got to say. Great show, Rude Dog. We covered a lot of bases, covered a lot of sports, and looking forward, as Tony Kornheiser would say, doing it better the next time.
Well, there's always better the next time. Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much for coming on. It's Rudy Reyes with Scott Morganroth on at Take No Punches, Motorman, and Rude Dog. Those to follow, like it, love it, never leave it, share it, because we like that kind of thing. And I mean thing, not just thing, it's thing. So
there you go. That's what you call it out there, thing. But subscribe and download. If nobody can't learn anything from us, well, then we didn't do our job. But I'm confident everybody will.
I do as well, very much so. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we're going to sign out. Until next time.
Good afternoon.